Hello, welcome to the Matchbook Racing Review with Don McLean and I, looking back at another classic weekend. They come thick and fast at the moment. Brilliant Irish action we had over at the Curragh, and I was at Newbury enjoying some very good fare as well on what was a really busy Saturday afternoon. Don, you yourself were at the Curragh for another Irish Oaks and another British winner in the race. The Brits have got a pretty good record in it, and unsurprisingly, it was Frankie and Gosden again. Their bandwagon keeps rolling on.
Yeah, I think Vintage Tipple is the last non-Aidan O'Brien trained Irish trained winner of the Irish Oaks. And interestingly, Vintage Tipple was ridden by Frankie Dettori. Yeah, it's the Dettori show, isn't it?
Doesn't count then.
Yeah, no, look, Frankie is, you kind of think it can't always all be about Frankie, but actually these days it really is. He's unbelievable. And I know Star Catcher is a progressive filly, and, to come on from the Ribblesdale and for Anthony Oppenheimer to supplement her to the race for 40 grand, that was a fairly big call, but it was the right race for her. And interesting, John got saying afterwards that she hadn't been entered in the race because the race closed early enough before they figured out how good she was. He said, I think he suggested maybe it's too early. But look, it was obviously money well spent. And Frankie just bounced her out of the gate, and he just seemed to be able to set his own fractions. And, that's what good riders are able to do, that they're able to dictate fields, dictate fractions, boss fields. And he always looked happy. The Pink Dogwood was well back. Fleeting was well enough back. But it never really looked like Fleeting was going to get to her. I backed Fleeting, and when Frankie kicked, it looked like he'd gone, and that was it, race over. And in fairness to Fleeting, she did stay on really well, and she came away from the rest of the fillies. And I thought for a second she might get her, but actually, Starcatcher, if you look at it closely, in the last 50 yards, she wasn't getting any closer. So I'd say Starcatcher probably had a little bit more left, and it wasn't all down to the ride. It's probable she was the best horse in the race anyway, and would have won regardless of how she'd been ridden. Yeah,
we've had different reactions to the Irish Derby and the Irish Oaks, where both winners have made all, but I suppose in slightly different style. And we were left with an unsatisfactory feel after the Irish Derby because it was a huge outsider that had won. Whereas that's not necessarily the case with Starcatcher, and so it wasn't such a shock. But we still let two horses and two riders effectively, or riders in behind, let two riders set their own fractions. And I'm almost surprised that Frankie was allowed his own time of it to such an extent up top. I didn't expect that to happen. Not just because Aidan O'Brien had more than one runner in the race, but also because of what went before in the Irish Derby. But it did happen. It perhaps just in not quite such dramatic fashion.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Starcatcher beat Fleeting in the Ribblesdale. So and the form is almost identical. I mean, you could argue that she got first run on her in the Ribblesdale. She probably got first run on her again on Saturday. But I think the key, like if Fleeting had closed all the way to the line and got beaten ahead, then you would have thought, yeah, the ride made the difference. But I just think the way that when Fleeting, now in fairness, she had to do a lot of running to get close to Starcatcher, and the way that Starcatcher held her on the run to the line, like Fleeting closed to a point and then didn't close anymore. And I think that's probably indicative of the fact that Starcatcher had more left. And if Fleeting had found another half a length, Starcatcher would have found that half a length as well. You can never know these things, but I think that's probably the way it was. And yeah, I think Starcatcher was the best filly in the race.
It seems a long time ago, Don, that I was stood at Epsom before the Oaks thinking Pink Dogwood was the second coming. Yes, my matchbook account tells me it was a long time ago as well, because I had quite a good go at her. And I felt perhaps she was the best filly on the day there, but given what's transpired subsequently, I'm not sure.
Yeah, she was strong in the market as well. I mean, on the Pretty Polly run, it didn't make sense that Pink Dogwood should have been a shorter price than Iridessa. Like Iridessa beat her fair and square in the Pretty Polly. The step up from 10 furlongs to a mile and a half was probably going to suit Pink Dogwood, but there was every chance it would suit Iridessa as well. So she was obviously well fancied. She was strong in the market, and she stayed on. She obviously, she was beaten about 4 lengths by her stable companion Fleeting. So I think that pecking order might change around now, and maybe that Fleeting is considered to be the better filly of those two. And look, Fleeting's a high-class filly. She was a bit unlucky in the Oaks. She was a bit unlucky again in the Ribblesdale, and you can argue she was a bit unlucky yesterday. So, and maybe that's the type of filly she is. Maybe, that's a running side. She does stay on well. Maybe she's going to look unlucky. But yeah, like she's the Mayhill winner from last year, so she's a talented filly. It's just that you'd like her to have one of those now, Ribblesdale or an Irish Oaks or an Oaks, and if the ball would have to weave it differently, if she got a better run through each of those races, or even one of them, she might have won any one of those. Even in the Oaks, like she was closing all the way to the line. I know she only finished third in the end, but it was a big run for a filly who didn't have a run through the race. But yeah, I still think there's a big prize in Fleeting. But I think Starcatcher, now that she's won the Ribbles, won the Irish Oaks, I think she can progress. Again, it goes without saying, she's won the race. She probably won it with a little bit in hand, and she's just another one of those top-class middle-distance fillies that John Gosling has, isn't she?
Yeah, he's doing all right in that department. He's got another one next week. We'll
Really?
Which one's that? We might touch on her at the end. Just one last thing on. I think we're both in agreement, Don, that the best filly won the race on the day, but she was also the horse in the race who had the most economical and most efficient ride as well. There's been a bit coming out on sectional timing off the back of it and saying how this highlights the importance of having sectionals, because it tells us just how the race was run and how it suited the long-time leader, the filly that made All-Star Catcher. Where do you stand on sectional timing? Because there are a few comments. Simon Rowlands has been very vocal on this on Twitter. James Willoughby, our very own from Racing TV, is very vocal about it and how it's essential in racing. Now, a few people underneath Simon's article have written, and I know you're not on Twitter, so you may not have seen, but have written and said, this only confirms what I saw with my eye. I could see that the filly out in front had the most effective run through the race, and that Fleeting probably had a bit too much to do, and therefore we could upgrade her sectionally, but I can see all that with my eye. And I would say in this instance, that's absolutely right. We could see everything with our eye, but not to the detail which sectional timing gives us. And there will be plenty more examples where sectional timing away from this race will tell us a good deal that we can't see with our eye. And I think it's useful, obviously, to have both examples. I'm a huge advocate of it. But just where do you stand? Because I think this highlights the need for it, ideally.
Yeah, no, I think sectional timings are great. And it's, the people are kind of going, oh, sectional times, they'll be the key to profitable betting. I don't think they will, because if, for the likes of Simon, who do an awful lot of work on sectional timings, that's their edge. So if everybody has sectional timings, they're going to have to find a new edge. So it's not the route to untold riches from a betting perspective, but I think from a narrative or from an interpretation of the race perspective, in hindsight, I think that's the key. And like Simon's analysis of the Irish Derby was top notch. All the sections were all there. Well, sorry, he worked out the sectionals because we don't have them in Ireland for every race meeting, which is a pity. But yeah, like I think, as you say, the Irish Oaks and also the Irish Derby, what you suspected from what you saw and how the race was run visually, watching the replay, it looks like that's correct from the sectionals that have emerged since. But that's not going to be the case in every race. And when a horse comes from the back in what looks like a slowly run race, as in if a horse comes from the rear and gets in among the finishers with the finish made up of horses who race prominently, you go, well, he can probably be marked up. But maybe they all, maybe that's not the case. Maybe the front runners, 3 of them can be marked up, and the horse who came from the rear actually ran efficiently. So sectionals tell us, they confirm, in most cases they're going to confirm what you see, but in some cases they're going to unearth some other little piece of information that you didn't see, or maybe upgrade some horse by more or by less than you would have with your own eyes. And I think, you can't have too much information, I think, wind operations and all of that, mares and foal, I think it's good to have that information, and, maybe it's information overload for some people, but, why should it be information overload? If you have the time to spend on it and you enjoy that type of thing, we should have it. And, like as I wrote in the Irish Field last week or 2 weeks ago, if we can, tell the speed of a bowl, of a cricket ball, or, chart the arc of a golf ball in flight, we should be able to tell how fast racehorses are going at varying stages of the race. So yeah, look, I think they're very good, and now it looks like they're becoming more mainstream, which I think is good, so that people can talk about them and talk about them knowledgeably, not just a select few.
Exactly that. And if you look at other sports and you look at how we use the DRS system in cricket and how we can tell a cricket ball when it hits a batsman's pads would have hit the top of off stump, how can we not tell how long it took a horse to get from point A to point B? I mean, we can, I know, but why don't we have that data? And it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that is fine. But in this betting game, which is essentially what you and I try and break it down to onto a Monday, because this is a match bet racing review. Information is going to be power, and it's another string to your bow and an essential one. And when we use it in Dubai, which we do, and James Willoughby breaks it all down, it tells us so much about the running of a race, which then gives us more wealth of information to go back to the next time that horse runs and analyse his performance more accurately. So I think we're getting there, but it's perhaps just not happening as quick as we'd like. Anyway, we've got a little bit off topic, but I think it's an important one to cover. What else happened at the weekend at the Curragh? Romanised. I did watch him through gritted teeth, having backed on his last couple of... This was going to be the one, wasn't it, I suppose? There's something about the Curragh. He loves that horse.
Yeah, like the last time he won was on 2000 Guineas Day, the Irish 2000 Guineas, 14 months ago. Yeah, I was against him as well. I thought the drop back down to 7 furlongs was enough to be against him at the price. But he was a horse to follow from the Lockinge. He was a horse to follow from the Queen Anne, and he got the fast pace that he really loves. And as you say, he was back at the Curragh. 7 furlongs didn't matter. He travelled really well for Billy Lee. Even when Hageman went on and hit the front, you kind of suspected they had gone fast, and Hageman had chased a fast pace, and he was vulnerable to something with the class and the finishing kick that Romanised has to go and pick him up. And look, it's great for Ken Condon to get him to win his group race again now as an older horse. It's a Group 2, but as Billy Lee said afterwards, he's a Group 1 horse. He was competitive in the Lockinge, might have done better if he had a better run through the race. Same in the Queen Anne. He got stopped in his run twice, and he still finished close enough. So to come back to Curragh and win a Group 2, it's good. I think it's correct that he should have won a Group 2. It wasn't right that he hadn't won a race since he won the Irish 2000 Guineas. So it's good that he's got a Group 2 race as an older horse, and now he can step back up to Group 1 races, and all those mile races, even the Foray over 7 might be an option for him. But I think once he gets his fast pace, that's the key to him. But he's a classy horse. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I just wonder where they see him ending up. I think the key is whether it's 7 or a mile, he just wants to come off a good pace. He's had excuses on both starts this year, Lockinge and Ascot. I wonder if they're looking at a QE2 and saying that's where he deserves to end up and going for that. And the trouble is that time of year he does want quick ground, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does want. He's probably at his best on quick ground, all right. But yeah, and you never know at Ascot what is going to turn up. I suppose the Sussex is coming too quickly. Pre-Jacques Le Marois, maybe that could be a race for him.
But I don't think it's something like a Sussex. I don't. Even though I think it's just around the corner, isn't it? But yeah, that for me wouldn't be his bag necessarily. How that tends to shape up. I think the straight mile at Ascot is on quick ground. I know it didn't work out at Ascot necessarily, but I think that is always going to suit him. But it's end of the year, whether you're going to get. Well, you're probably not in October going to get lightning quick ground.
Probably not, but he still ran his race in the Queen Anne, didn't he? Like he was a bit unlucky. He was 4th and should have, could have gone a lot closer if he'd had a smoother run through the race. So yeah, I think Ascot, you can't, even though he was beaten in the St James Palace Stakes on the round mile, you can't say that Ascot doesn't suit him. And QE2 is a straight mile these days, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and he should get a fast pace in a straight mile at Ascot. So yeah, if the ground came up good or better, that could be a legitimate target for him, all right. Yeah, he could be that good. Like he deserves to be. Those races are that he deserves be considered for those races.
Yeah, he still wants it to work out for him, ideally in Group One company, I think, and that given his running style, that's not always going to happen. I think he's not good enough to overcome anything in that company necessarily, but equally going back into Group One company, he's always going to be an interesting sort of price. We're going to touch on Group 2-year-olds. There's one Irish 2-year-old you're going to talk on, I know, but we'll do that in a little 2-year-old bit at the end. But just to mention Sophia, or Sophia, however you want to call her, who won the Group 2 sprint. Easy as you like. And Fast Eddie's got another good one, Don. It's great.
Yeah, he's brilliant. And he's great for his quotes after races as well. You know, he knew she was good, but he didn't know she was that good. But it was great to see it. And he's been so patient with her, and she keeps on delivering. She was, 6 furlongs. He said after last time that she might be better over 5. She's got that pace, and God, she showed it. Now, the race, again, was run to suit. She had El Astronaut and Caspian Prince to set a fast pace, and she got a lovely toe into the race. Declan McDonough gave her a super ride just in behind the pace, and then when he asked her to pick up, she was seriously impressive. You rarely see a sprinter or a group race sprint, Group 2, being won as emphatically as that. And no, she just keeps on progressing. It's a pity she's not in the Nunthorpe, but I suppose that comes up next week as well. So quite quickly, Eddie said, I think the Flying 5 next, and then the Abbey. They're the 2 races that that are on her radar. And again, that's how good she is. She was seriously impressive. It was her best performance yet, but her last run was probably her best before that. So she just continues to progress.
How quick is that Curragh 5 in comparison to, say, a York 5 or a stiff Ascot 5 going the other way? Where would it fit in amongst the others, do you think?
I'd say it's probably not as stiff as Ascot. What did she clock yesterday? Nearly 59 seconds, 58.5. So, and that was on good ground. So yeah, it's a good mile. I'd say it's more or less average for in terms of stiffness. It wouldn't be as quick as York or Goodwood, but it would be probably a little bit not as stiff as Ascot's 5.
Yeah, fair enough. She was very impressive in a race that I thought the British had a really strong hand in. She was very, very good, so it went to the home team. Before we get stuck into the 2-year-olds, I'm going to mention some performances from Newbury. One of those came from Fox Chairman, who he had been unlucky at Ascot in the race won by Sangarius. Andrew Balding said after the race he thought the best horse had won on that occasion on the day, which that may come to pass. I think he's realistic about where this horse is going to go, and it's not necessarily Group 1 company, but he's going to stick to that trip for now. But the main horse I want to talk about is Pondus. I think there is a really good 1.5 mile horse in there. I think he was beaten by a quicker horse, maybe a better horse on Saturday, but a horse with a better turn of foot. The trouble was he'd shaped previously as though he wanted 1.5 miles, Pondus. They went up to 1.5 miles for the Edward VII at Ascot. He was drawn wide, he was keen early, and he didn't settle, so he gave himself absolutely no chance of getting home. He's then gone out and run over 10 and shaped as though he wants to go back up in trip. But I really believe there is a good race in over 1.5 miles for this horse, Pondus. He's a son of Sea of the Moon. I'm sure he's going to see it out if he settles over that trip. And that's going to be more how the race pans out. It didn't work out early doors at Ascot, and it was sort of race over. But I think he's a really good horse in the making. And from a betting angle, I think, given what's gone before now, very good at Sandown, stepped up in grade, disappointing at Ascot, beaten by, on the face of it, a better horse over 10. I think there could be a little... I think he might be underestimated if he shows up somewhere over 1.5 miles again.
Yeah, you can allow him the run at Ascot, can't you? I mean, because the ground was so soft and because he didn't settle, you can nearly just completely put a line through that race and allow him start again over 1.5 miles, because I know he's got form on soft ground from before, but he's probably a better ground type of horse, isn't he? He's probably better on better ground.
He's proved himself on both. He's won on soft and good to firm. I think the ground was officially. It was weird actually at Newbury on Saturday, because they'd had 9 mils overnight. They changed the ground to soft overnight. It was good to soft all day the previous day before. And then they ran the first race. I think it was 7 seconds slow. The second race was 21 seconds slow, over 2 miles, half a furlong. And the Group 3 was 5.5 seconds slow. I mean, that's soft ground times. Group 3's over that trip. So that's soft ground times. But the jockeys after the first, the clerk of the course, quite rightly, as you do, spoke to the riders of the first and the second, Sylvester de Souza on Fox Chairman and Asheen Murphy. and they said, well, it's not, it's no worse than good to soft, and changed the ground back to good to soft after the first race, having had 9 mil overnight. It was a drying day, so the times did quicken up a bit, and it was very windy and the sun was out. But I don't know. I wouldn't. That first race, I would contest it was officially good to soft, is what I'm trying to get at. Even I know that just on that time, before they didn't go that quick. But I'm not. I wouldn't make ground excuses for him necessarily. I would just say, I think he wants a mile. I think he might just come into his own back over a mile and a half.
So what'll he do next? Did they talk about targets from where he might go next? Where do you think he might go?
He was on a busy day. He was the second, and so I didn't.
Yeah.
It's difficult, I have a fixed position at Newbury, so I don't have a camera to move around with me. So I spoke to the winners. Goodwood will come. He's not in the mile and a half at Goodwood. I don't think that'll come too soon. Not sure, but wherever he goes, I will be interested in him next, because I think he'll just be a bit. I think he's better than he showed in his last 2 starts.
Yeah, and it'll be a listed race for a Group 3 rather than a handicap, would it?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think they've got to go down that. Yeah, he's finished second, a good second in that group race. So in that listed race. But I think they'll stick down the Home Company route. The other horse to mention, as far as the older horses, Walbfad. Won't spend too long on it, but my God, this German raider who's got a phenomenal strike rate. He was giving £3 to a horse like the Tin Man. He had a penalty, and the Tin Man's rated 116. This horse has now run to a mark of 112 plus. Dominic Moser, the German trainer who's brought horses over to York before, he couldn't believe it afterwards. He said we were hoping for a place. The thing bolted up. Like, I know the Tin Man ran below expectations, but he's bolted up. He won fair and square. They talked about 7 furlongs and the Hungerford next to Group 2, and I suppose that's a logical step. But he's also in the sprint at Haydock, the Group 1. I said to him, have a crack. And why not? You've got a horse that's bolted up in a Group 3. You've beaten some horses. You beat the horse that won the Haydock race last year, giving him weight for he probably underperformed. But you could easily say he's run to 112, 113 there. You're a couple of pounds off running in a Group 1. So I wonder if they'll try and do both. I'm not sure. But I was mighty impressed with that horse, Don.
Yeah, no, he was seriously impressive. You can point to the fact that the Tin Man underperformed. Cadem maybe was a wee bit unlucky. He was just got kind of held up in behind and had to make his way through traffic. But that said, no, the winner was seriously impressive. And you get a 33-1 winner of a group race, there's a chance he's going to be underrated next time. You get a German-trained 33-1 winner of a group race, and there's a bigger chance he's going to be underrated. It's not right. We kind of go, that was just a fluke.
Fluke. That was a fluke. Yeah, tacky ground. Fluke. And it might turn out that he never performs like that again. But if you look at his career progression, he's got a very good strike rate. Because he'd won the Group 3 in Germany, they wanted to come elsewhere because he didn't have options. He definitely will be underestimated next time. If that horse was trained over here and trained by a Gosden, for example, he wouldn't be. But I'm convinced he will be. So I was impressed with him, and I like the Raiders coming over and beating us locals up. It's good. 2-year-old chap, Don. I'll kick off with the Super Sprint. Betty's Hope was very good. It was a great result for Rob Millman to win the race again, 22 years after his first. He talked about the struggles in the last 20-odd years to win it again, because it's changed shape a little bit. You can't quite get the horses you could. But that was great. She won that. She's going to be better still over further, I think, and it probably helped. They put a bit of water on, and it was still easy enough ground on the day to help her see it out. But Ventura Rebel, I do think is a horse who probably does one further now, for all he was beaten fair and square on the day. Richard Fahey had the 2nd, 3rd and 4th. He's got such a good record in the race. Ventura Rebel's form took another boost at the weekend with Ali winning the Robert Papin. So we know that is strong form. But and that winner might step up to 6. But I definitely think Ventura Rebel is a very good horse. But he just wants another furlong now as he's developing. So I wouldn't rule him out necessarily. His form's got a boost, and when he steps up to 6, he could still go very close.
He was probably a bit disappointing in the face, wasn't it?
Oh, he definitely was. I'm not making excuses for him. The winner won fair and square on the day. I'm not sure she was on a quicker part of the track. For all there were a couple of winners there, I just think she got the test she wanted coming from off the pace, off a hot pace. But just using it as a sort of segue into Ali, that Norfolk form looks strong now.
Yeah, exactly. And like the Anglesey Stakes at the Curragh the first 5 finished within a length and a half of each other. So in one sense, you kind of go, can they all be good? But it was a strong race. The Little Grey, I thought she brought a good level of form into the race, and it looked like she was going. And look, in fact, there were 3 different, or maybe even 4 different potential winners going inside the final furlong. But Roman Turbo was strongest of all. He came down the outside, and watching the race again, then Ronan Whelan timed his run. It wasn't that he was flat to the boards. He just rode him to get there on the line, and it was a really nice run, really nice ride. He brought him to the outside, and actually he won by 3 parts of a length in the end. So while there was a length and a half between the first 5, 3 parts of a length were between the second and the fifth. So he was fair. It was cosy enough in the end. While it didn't look like he might get there a furlong or a furlong and a half out, in hindsight, given that he known that he won the race, it was a really nice ride, and he actually was he was the best horse in the race on the day. Obviously, he won it, but he won with a little bit in hand, and he might even be better over 7 furlongs. It might be that he can stretch out.
He's not got any
Phoenix Stakes, obviously.
Has he done?
No, but I think look, I'm not sure if entries are in for the National Stakes yet. They must be, but no.
Yeah, you've got. I mean, Phoenix are there, aren't they? I think they should be.
Yeah, the Phoenix Stakes should be in. National Stakes should be in as well, I guess. But look, he can be supplemented. But at the same time, he's now gone and won his Group 3 race. So as a juvenile going forward with the he has all those options ahead of him throughout the season. And yeah, I'd say the step up to 7 might be a good thing for him. Certainly the way he finished off his race here, and it looked like a strongly run race as well. So, and that was only his second run, and his first run is working out pretty well. So yeah, there's plenty to like about it.
And just to tie up the Ali chat, who won the Robert Papin, they said that the Nunthorpe yes is an option, but they won't go there. They wouldn't have thought taking on older horses wouldn't be good at this time of his career. Simon Crisford said, but they would probably go for something like the Morney or the Group 1 in Ireland, the 6th. But that's the Phoenix, isn't it?
Phoenix, or 6th, yeah.
So that they may well go down the 6 furlong route. Just that's where options are going to take them. The last one I wanted to mention on Friday, a horse called Repartee was beaten by Shaden in the Rose Bowl Stakes. He was not given a hard time late on. He was a very impressive winner on debut at York by about 5 lengths. He was kept away from Ascot purposefully. Hadn't had a setback, but Kevin Ryan said it's not all about Ascot. He won the Gimcrack, Kevin Ryan, with Emiratiana last year, who was beaten in the Rose Bowl off the back of a bit of an absence. I'm sure that's the route they'll go down with this horse. The owner, Sheikh Mohammed Abeid, bought Emiratiana off the back of the Gimcrack last year. He owns this horse. I'm sure. I'd be very surprised if this horse didn't show up in the Gimcrack, all being well. So I think it could be of interest for that. Don, that's it. Enables this weekend. You might watch that.
That's the filly. That's the John Gosden filly you were talking about.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right, got it.
She'll go far.
Yeah, she could be one worth following, all right.
Do you know what? She'll be the story of this season if she wins that and wins not just this season. She'll be the story of the last decade. I mean, it'll be history if she does win the Arc, but she is that big. She's another one of these horses that has the power to transcend the sport, and it could happen this year. Yeah,
and add Frankie Dettori to her. Like it's box office, isn't it? And it's great. Like we do need these. Bruce got a piece in the Sunday Times there about how competitive the space is now for sport. And sure, we saw it last weekend with the cricket, which I can't mention that I know. And also the tennis. And then yesterday there was the golf. I was at Croke Park yesterday watching Donegal against Kerry. And every now and again they'd flash up how Shane Larry was doing on the big screen. So yeah, it was it's a competitive area now, and we need the likes of Enable and Frankie Dettori to go and bring racing to people who have a peripheral interest in or into sport in general and only have a peripheral interest in racing.
Yeah, the Killarney scenes were unreal, Don, when Frankie showed up there. Gary O'Brien was there saying there are people here who I've not seen race, but that's what you want.
That's what you want. Yeah, that's what you need.
So great stuff. So I think we all hope that she goes and does it this weekend, whatever punting angle we fall down on. So we will see. Donn, thank you very much indeed. Chat to you again next week. Don't forget about the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast, which will be coming out this Friday. Looking forward to an excellent day's racing at Ascot and elsewhere. Bye-bye for now.